We like to imagine that history is something that ended, that there is a clean break between then and now, that slavery belongs to dusty textbooks, and that we live in something entirely new. But life is not divided that way. History is not a museum, it is a moving thread. What we call history today is simply earlier chapters of the same system that we are still living in. And if you study systems carefully, you will notice something uncomfortable. Slavery did not end, it evolved. Yes, chattel slavery was abolished in the 19th century. In the United States, the 13th Amendment formally ended legal slavery in 1865. And across the Atlantic world, abolition unfolded through the 18th and 19th centuries. But when a system of extraction becomes morally indefensible, power rarely dissolves. It restructures. In the United States, slavery became sharecropping. Newly freed black families worked land they did not own, trapped in debt cycles that recreated economic bondage. Then came convict leasing. Under the exception clause of the 13th Amendment, prisoners could be forced into labor, and black men were arrested in staggering numbers for minor infractions or fabricated offenses and leased to private companies. The plantation did not disappear, it outsourced. Then came redlining in the 20th century, when federal housing maps marked black neighborhoods as high risk and generational wealth was systematically blocked. And in the late 20th century, mass incarceration exploded, with the prison population soaring disproportionately along racial lines, of course. Different mechanisms, same outcome. Cheap labor, controlled population, suppressed autonomy. Now let's look at Africa. Transatlantic slave trade devastated societies for centuries. But when abolition came, exploitation did not vanish, it shifted. The late 19th century brought the scramble for Africa, formalized at the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where European powers decided to partition the continent without African consent. Colonial administrations imposed forced labor systems. Cash crop economies were engineered to serve foreign markets, and indigenous political systems were dismantled or subordinated. After independence, many nations inherited borders, debt structures, and extractive economic models designed during colonial rule. Resource extraction intensified. Minerals, oil, and agricultural commodities continued to flow outward, and multinational corporations gained enormous leverage over fragile post colonial governments. The colony became mining concession. The whip became contract law. Control shifted from chains to policy. Some argue that because slavery officially ended in 1865, Black Americans and continental Africans now walk completely separate historical paths. But that argument assumes power structures dissolved in 1865. They did not. They restructured. Systems do not disappear because a law changes. They adapt to new moral climates. They rebrand. They reconfigure. If you only look at legal language, you will miss structural continuity. If you only look at surface differences, you will miss shared architecture. Yes, our experiences are not identical. A Black American story is not the same as a Nigerian story. A Jamaican story is not the same as a Ghanaian story. But across continents, one pattern has been consistent: racialized positioning within global hierarchies. Wherever Black populations exist, they have often been concentrated at the lower rungs of political and economic power structures, shaped by centuries of racial ideology and economic extraction. That is not emotion, it is pattern recognition. Those who benefit from that pattern are most comfortable when we argue about legitimacy, about who is more original, who is more authentic, who owns the struggle, who deserves recognition. Division is cheaper to maintain than justice. When people who share structural challenges fight over identity boundaries, the structure remains intact. The question is not whether we are identical, because we are not the same. The question is whether we recognize the architecture that has shaped us all. Because history is not sealed in the past, it is embedded in policy, it is embedded in global finance, it is embedded in labor markets, it is embedded in opportunity gaps. And so, as we continue to bicker over slight differences, the powers that be, the system will continue to perpetuate its evil. History speaks.